Listen, because what you're about to hear has fans questioning everything they thought they knew about loyalty, friendship, and the unspoken rules of reality TV brotherhood. For years, Kirk Frost and Mendeecees have stood side by side in the same chaotic universe, navigating fame, family, and the ever-watchful eyes of the public. They smiled for cameras, broke bread at industry events, and spoke openly about respect and mutual understanding. But now, fans are shocked, whispers are flying, and one question is burning hotter than ever before: is the bro code officially broken? It all started with what seemed like a harmless moment, one cryptic comment, one side-eye glance, one silence that lasted just a little too long. Viewers noticed it immediately. Social media lit up. Did you see Kirk's face? Why didn't Mendeecees speak up? Something's off. At first, everyone brushed it off as editing tricks or typical reality TV tension. But behind the scenes, emotions were already running high, and the cracks in this once solid bond were growing wider by the day. Sources close to the situation claimed that what began as a private disagreement quickly spiraled into something much deeper. We're talking about bruised egos, crossed lines, and a sense of betrayal that cut straight to the core. This wasn't just about business. This wasn't just about clout. This was personal. Friends reportedly found themselves forced to pick sides, and the family was left divided as old conversations were suddenly viewed through a very different lens. And here's where it gets messy. Allegedly, words were exchanged that couldn't be taken back. Voices were raised behind closed doors. One of them felt disrespected, while the other felt blindsided. "I would never do that to you," one is rumored to have said. The response? A cold silence that spoke louder than any argument ever could. Fans are shocked not just by the fallout, but by how fast things seem to unravel. Now, every post, every interview, every public appearance is being dissected frame by frame. Was that shade? Was that intentional? Or is this all one massive misunderstanding blown out of proportion? The tension is thick, the stakes are high, and the bro code, those unspoken rules of loyalty and respect, may be hanging by a thread. So buckle up, because this story is full of unexpected twists, emotional confrontations, and moments that will leave you questioning who's really in the right. What really happened between Kirk Frost and Mendeecees? And more importantly, can their brotherhood survive the pressure, or is this the end of an era? Stay right here, because the drama is only just beginning. Grimace. The tension didn't explode overnight, it crept in slowly, quietly, like a shadow stretching across a room no one wanted to look at. Kirk Frost had always prided himself on being the guy who stayed cool when cameras were rolling, the one who smiled through chaos and laughed off rumors. Mendeecees, on the other hand, moved with a different energy, more guarded, more deliberate, someone who believed respect was shown in actions, not words. For years, those differences somehow worked. Fans loved seeing them in the same spaces, nodding at each other with that unspoken understanding that said, "Yeah, we've been through things together." But lately, that understanding felt shaky, and people around them could feel it. It started with a private gathering, one of those industry dinners where everyone pretends it's casual but every move is calculated. Kirk walked in confident, greeting people loudly, shaking hands, cracking jokes. When he spotted Mendeecees across the room, he paused for half a second too long. The smile still came, but it didn't reach his eyes. Mendeecees noticed. He always noticed. He gave a nod instead of a hug, and that alone sent shockwaves through the room. Fans weren't there, cameras weren't rolling, but the energy shifted instantly. Someone whispered, "That's strange," and another replied, "Yeah, something's wrong." Later that night, Kirk tried to brush it off. He laughed with friends and said everything was cool, but when the conversation drifted to loyalty and respect, his tone changed. "I'm big on the bro code," he said, voice firm, eyes scanning the room as if daring someone to challenge him. Nobody said a word, but everyone knew who he was talking about. Mendeecees heard about it before the night was even over. A mutual friend pulled him aside and repeated Kirk's words almost verbatim. Mendeecees' jaw tightened. "If he's got something to say, he knows where to find me," he responded, calm but clearly irritated. Days later, the situation escalated when both men appeared at the same filming location. Producers sensed the tension immediately. Kirk was unusually quiet, scrolling on his phone, while Mendeecees kept to himself, arms crossed, eyes fixed ahead. When they were finally in the same frame, the silence was louder than any argument. Fans watching later would say emotions ran high even without words being exchanged. Every glance felt loaded, every pause uncomfortable. Behind the scenes, accusations were already flying. Kirk felt blindsided, claiming Mendeecees had moved funny behind his back, talking to people he shouldn't have, allegedly questioning Kirk's loyalty as a husband and a friend. "I've always defended him," Kirk vented to someone close to him. Always. And this is how he repays me. His voice cracked, not with sadness, but with anger. Mendeecees, meanwhile, told his side to his inner circle, saying he felt disrespected and used. Don't smile in my face and question me behind closed doors, he said. That's not how I move. The family fallout was immediate. Rashida noticed Kirk coming home more tense than usual, snapping over small things. She pressed him gently at first, asking what was wrong, but he shut down. It's just business, he said, though his tone suggested otherwise. Mendeecees' partner noticed the same shift. He was quieter, more distant, replaying conversations in his head late at night. The family was left divided, not because they were involved directly, but because they felt the emotional weight of the conflict seeping into their homes. Social media didn't help. Fans are shocked at how quickly speculation spread. A single vague tweet from Kirk about loyalty being rare sent people into a frenzy. Minutes later, Mendeecees posted a cryptic message about knowing your worth. Blogs picked it up instantly, framing it as a clear shot fired. Comments poured in, some taking Kirk's side, others backing Mendeecees. Bro code broken for real, one fan wrote. Another said, this hurts to watch, they used to be solid. The noise only made things worse. A mutual friend attempted to mediate, arranging a private conversation between the two. No cameras, no producers, just them. Kirk arrived first, pacing the room, rehearsing what he wanted to say. When Mendeecees walked in, the air felt heavy. So what's the issue? Mendeecees asked, straight to the point. Kirk laughed nervously. You know what the issue is, he replied. Voices stayed low at first, but the tension was undeniable. Kirk accused him of crossing lines, of not having his back when it mattered. Mendeecees shot back, having your back doesn't mean lying for you. That line hit hard. The conversation spiraled quickly. Old grievances surfaced, things neither had ever addressed. Kirk brought up moments where he felt Mendeecees pulled away without explanation. Mendeecees countered with times he felt Kirk chose clout over friendship. You move for the cameras, Mendeecees said bluntly. Kirk's face flushed. That's my life, he snapped. You think I asked for all this? The argument ended without resolution, just a tense agreement to take space. But space didn't bring peace. It only fueled more rumors. Producers sensed gold, fans sensed betrayal, and everyone around them felt like they were watching a slow-motion collision. Kirk told himself he was done, that he didn't need anyone who questioned his loyalty. Mendeecees told himself he was standing on principle, that respect mattered more than history. Both believed they were right, and that belief hardened their hearts. By the time they crossed paths again, the tension had transformed into something colder, more dangerous. No shouting, no accusations, just distance. And sometimes, that hurt more than any argument ever could. Neither realized it yet, but the choices they were making in silence were setting the stage for something even bigger, something that would test not just their friendship, but their identities. And as fans watched every move, one thing became clear: whatever this was, it was far from over. The distance between them became its own kind of noise, louder than any argument either of them had ever been in. Every room they entered felt split down the middle, like people were subconsciously choosing where to stand. Kirk noticed it first when longtime associates stopped joking around him, watching their words carefully, as if anything they said might get back to Mendeecees. That feeling irritated him deeply. He hated the idea that someone else's silence could control the energy around him. I'm not the bad guy here, he muttered one night, staring at his phone as more comments flooded in. Fans are shocked, the blogs kept saying, but Kirk felt misunderstood more than anything else. Mendeecees, meanwhile, embraced the quiet, but it wasn't peaceful. It was heavy. Every time his name trended, he felt that familiar mix of anger and exhaustion. He wasn't used to drama living this loudly outside his control. To him, the situation was simple. Respect had been crossed, and once that happened, there were consequences. But watching strangers dissect his character online stirred something deeper. They don't know me, he told a close friend, shaking his head. They don't know what I've swallowed over the years just to keep the peace. The peace, however, had been fake for a long time, at least according to people closest to them. Whispers started surfacing about old situations that had never been resolved. One insider claimed there was a moment months ago when Mendeecees felt Kirk put him in an uncomfortable position during a group conversation, making jokes that cut a little too close to home. Kirk had laughed it off back then, saying everyone was too sensitive. Mendeecees hadn't laughed, he'd remembered it. Moments like that don't disappear, they stack up, waiting for the right moment to fall. That moment came when a third party got involved. Someone both men trusted, someone who had always moved between their circles without issue. This person allegedly repeated a private conversation, twisting words, amplifying emotions, and planting seeds of doubt on both sides. Kirk was told Mendeecees questioned his integrity. Mendeecees was told Kirk laughed about him behind his back. Whether it was intentional or not, the damage was done. The bro code, that sacred rule of keeping things in-house, felt violated beyond repair. Emotions ran high when Kirk finally confronted this third party. "Why would you even say that?" he demanded, voice sharp. The response was defensive, messy, full of half-apologies. "I thought you should know," the person said. "I was looking out for you." But Kirk wasn't convinced. He stormed out of the conversation feeling more confused than before, unsure who to trust. That confusion slowly turned into paranoia. Every smile felt fake, every silence suspicious. At home, Rashida could feel the shift in him. She tried to ground him, reminding him that not everyone deserved access to his emotions. "You're letting this eat you alive," she said softly one night. Kirk snapped back, immediately regretting it. "You don't get it," he said. "This is about respect." Rashida sighed, realizing this wasn't just another argument Kirk could brush off. This one hit his pride, and that was dangerous territory. Mendeecees wasn't immune to family pressure either. His partner urged him to talk it out, to clear the air before things went too far. "You don't have to be right all the time," she told him. "Sometimes you just have to be honest." Mendeecees listened, but the idea of opening himself up again felt risky. He'd already said his piece once, and it had gone nowhere. "I'm not chasing anyone for clarity," he replied. If he wanted to understand, he would have listened the first time. Then came the moment that truly split the fanbase. During a public appearance, Kirk was asked directly about Mendeecees. The question caught him off guard. For a second, it looked like he might dodge it. Instead, he smirked and said, "I wish him the best." Nothing else. No warmth, no acknowledgement of history. Fans are shocked by how cold it sounded. Within minutes, clips of the moment were everywhere. Mendeecees saw it later that night and went quiet. "That's all I needed to see," he said. He responded the only way he knew how, with silence paired with action. He unfollowed Kirk on social media. A small move, but in their world, it screamed finality. Blogs went wild. Headlines declared the friendship officially over. "That's childish," Kirk told someone when he heard. But the truth was, it stung. More than he expected. Unfollowing meant Mendeecees was done watching, done waiting, done hoping for change. Behind closed doors, Kirk wrestled with conflicting emotions. Anger told him to double down, to prove he didn't need anyone. Insecurity whispered that maybe he'd gone too far. He replayed their argument again and again, wondering if he'd misheard something, misunderstood something. But pride wouldn't let him reach out. "I'm not apologizing for how I feel," he said firmly. And yet, late at night, he found himself scrolling through old photos, old moments where things seemed simpler. Mendeecees did the same, though he'd never admitted. There were nights he questioned whether walking away was the right move. History carries weight, and theirs was heavy. They'd celebrated milestones together, defended each other publicly, survived storms that would have broken weaker bonds. Letting that go felt like losing a piece of himself, but he reminded himself of the principle that guided him. Loyalty without respect was meaningless. The circle around them grew tense. Friends stopped inviting them to the same events. Producers debated how to handle the situation, sensing both risk and opportunity. The family was left divided, not just emotionally but socially. Sides were forming, lines were being drawn, and nobody wanted to be caught in the middle when things finally exploded. And then, just when it seemed like the distance might become permanent, a new rumor surfaced, one that threatened to pour gasoline on an already raging fire. Something about a conversation, a private moment, and a choice that could change everything. Neither Kirk nor Mendeecees knew it yet, but the calm before the storm was ending, and what came next would force them both to confront truths they'd been avoiding for far too long. The rumor spread faster than either of them could control, slipping through group chats, whispered phone calls, and late-night conversations where voices dropped low but emotions burned hot. According to what was circulating, there had been a private conversation involving someone extremely close to Mendeecees, a conversation Kirk allegedly knew about and never shut down. By the time it reached Mendeecees, the story had grown teeth. It wasn't just about disrespect anymore, it was about boundaries, about lines that were never supposed to be crossed under the bro code. Mendeecees heard it while sitting in his car, engine off, phone pressed tightly to his ear. The person on the other end hesitated before speaking, and that hesitation told him everything. "I didn't want to say this," they began, "but I think you need to know." As the details unfolded, Mendeecees' grip on the steering wheel tightened. His breathing slowed, not because he was calm, but because he was trying not to explode. When the call ended, he sat there in silence for several minutes, staring straight ahead. Nah, he finally said out loud. This can't be real. But the more he thought about it, the more certain moments started to click into place. Kirk's tone during their argument, the defensiveness, the way he avoided eye contact when certain names came up. Suddenly, the silence made sense. And that realization hurt more than the argument ever had. Betrayal hits different when it comes from someone you trusted to protect your name, your family, your space. Emotions ran high as Mendeecees decided he wasn't going to sit with assumptions. He needed answers. Kirk, meanwhile, was dealing with his own version of the rumor, except his came wrapped in accusations. He was told Mendeecees was painting him as disloyal, even reckless, telling people Kirk had intentionally allowed disrespect to happen. That's not true, Kirk snapped when confronted. I didn't co-sign anything, but his explanation felt weak even to himself. He knew he'd stayed quiet in moments where speaking up would have mattered. At the time, he told himself it wasn't his place. Now, that choice was coming back to haunt him. Their next encounter wasn't planned, but it was inevitable. A mutual event, too public to avoid each other, too private to fake comfort. When Mendeecees walked in and locked eyes with Kirk, the air shifted instantly. Fans weren't in the room, but the tension felt performative all on its own. Kirk gave a nod, cautious. Mendeecees didn't return it. Instead, he walked past him, brushing his shoulder just enough to send a message. Kirk froze for a second, then turned around. We need to talk, he said quietly. They stepped aside, voices low but sharp. I heard some things, Mendeecees began, not wasting time. And I want to hear it from you. Kirk sighed, rubbing his face. I don't even know what you're talking about, he replied. That was the wrong answer. Mendeecees' eyes darkened. Don't play with me, he said. This is bigger than you and me now. Kirk felt the weight of that statement immediately. This wasn't just ego. This was family territory. As the conversation continued, words started slipping out that couldn't be taken back. Kirk admitted he'd been present during a conversation he should have shut down. I didn't agree with it, he insisted. Mendeecees laughed, but there was no humor in it. Silence is agreement, he shot back. You know that. The accusation hung between them like smoke. Kirk tried to defend himself, saying he didn't want to escalate things, that he thought it would die on its own. You chose comfort over loyalty, Mendeecees replied coldly. That line cut deep. Kirk's voice rose slightly. You think I'd ever intentionally disrespect you? He asked. Mendeecees didn't hesitate. I think you cared more about not rocking the boat than protecting me. The truth in that statement made Kirk falter. For a moment, he looked genuinely shaken. But instead of apologizing, pride stepped in. I'm not your bodyguard, he said defensively. I'm my own man, and just like that, whatever chance they had at resolution slipped further away. People nearby could sense something was wrong. Conversation stopped, eyes followed them as they walked away from each other, faces tight, shoulders tense. The family was left divided once again, with people unsure who to comfort and who to avoid. By the end of the night, everyone knew something serious had gone down. Phones buzzed nonstop as stories started forming before either man even got home. Online, fans are shocked by how intense the situation had become. Speculation turned into conviction, theories turned into accusations. Some fans accused Kirk of violating the bro code in the worst way possible. Others claimed Mendeecees was overreacting, letting pride destroy a long-standing friendship. Kirk watched the commentary late into the night, anger and regret battling inside him. Mendeecees avoided it altogether, choosing silence over spectacle. But silence didn't stop the fallout. A close associate of Mendeecees went live online, speaking vaguely but pointedly about loyalty and protection. If you can't trust your circle, they said, you need a new circle. Everyone knew who it was about. Kirk saw the clip and felt his chest tighten. That wasn't just shade, that was a public indictment. So that's what we're doing now, he muttered. The next few days were brutal. Kirk found himself isolated, questioning who was really on his side. Even people who didn't say anything felt distant. Mendeecees, on the other hand, felt justified but drained. Standing on principle cost something, and he was paying that price in emotional exhaustion. Late one night, he admitted to his partner, I didn't want it to go this far. She reminded him that he didn't create the situation, he responded to it. Kirk tried to distract himself with work, but every conversation circled back to the same topic. Have you talked to him? People asked. Are y'all done for good? Kirk didn't have answers. He only knew the damage was deeper than he'd expected. What started as silence had turned into a full-blown fracture, exposing insecurities and unresolved resentment on both sides. And just when it seemed like things couldn't get more complicated, a new element entered the picture, one that threatened to flip the narrative completely. Someone from Kirk's past, someone Mendeecees didn't trust, decided to speak out. And what they claimed to know had the potential to rewrite everything. Neither man was prepared for what was about to come out, but once it did, there would be no going back to the way things were before. The moment that person from Kirk's past spoke up, the entire situation shifted from tense to explosive. It wasn't a formal interview, it wasn't a polished statement, it was a messy, emotional spill that felt raw and unfiltered. Someone went live late at night, voice shaky but confident enough to sound convincing. I stayed quiet for years, they said, but I'm tired of watching people pretend. Within minutes, the clip spread like wildfire, and fans are shocked by how quickly the narrative began to bend. According to this person, Kirk had a long history of avoiding confrontation when it mattered most, choosing peace on the surface while chaos brewed underneath. They claimed Kirk often let things slide to keep relationships intact, even when silence hurt people around him. Mendeecees' name wasn't mentioned directly, but it didn't need to be. Everyone understood the implication. Kirk watched the video in disbelief, pacing his living room as his phone buzzed nonstop. "This is insane," he said aloud. "Why now?" Mendeecees saw it too, and while part of him felt validated, another part felt uneasy. He didn't trust the source, never had. Truth coming from the wrong mouth is still dangerous, he told his partner. But even he couldn't ignore how closely the words matched his own feelings. Silence, avoidance, misplaced loyalty. It all lined up in a way that was uncomfortable to admit. The family was left divided once again. Kirk's inner circle went into defense mode, calling the claims exaggerated and opportunistic. "People always come out when there's drama," one friend said. "This is cloud chasing." Mendeecees' side wasn't so quick to dismiss it. Some believed this was proof that Kirk's pattern went deeper than one incident. Group chats exploded with arguments, some heated, some heartbreaking. People who'd known each other for years suddenly questioned everything. Kirk decided he couldn't stay quiet anymore. For the first time since the situation began, he felt backed into a corner. He sat down with a few trusted people and vented, voice cracking between frustration and disbelief. "I've carried people," he said. "I've protected people. And now I'm the villain." Emotions ran high as he admitted he felt betrayed not just by Mendeecees but by the narrative forming around him. "Nobody talks about what I've done right," he added bitterly. Word got back to Mendeecees that Kirk was telling his side privately, painting himself as misunderstood and isolated. That didn't sit well with him. "Why talk to everyone except me?" Mendeecees asked. That question haunted him more than any rumor. He didn't want a public apology, he wanted accountability, something that felt real. "Say it to my face," he told a friend, "or don't say it at all." Producers sensed the pressure building and quietly encouraged a sit-down, not for cameras but for closure. Both men hesitated. Kirk feared being cornered again. Mendeecees feared being disappointed again. But eventually, they agreed, not out of hope, but out of exhaustion. Carrying anger is heavy, and both were tired. When they met, the mood was different from before. Less explosive, more somber. Kirk looked worn down, the confidence replaced by something closer to vulnerability. Mendeecees noticed immediately. "You look tired," he said. Kirk nodded. "This whole thing got out of control," he replied. There was no sarcasm, no edge, just honesty. They talked longer this time, circling the same issues but with less defensiveness. Kirk admitted he avoided conflict because he hated losing people. "I thought keeping quiet was protecting everyone," he said. Mendeecees shook his head. "It didn't protect me," he replied. "It made me feel exposed." The words landed softly but firmly. Kirk swallowed hard, realizing the weight of that truth. Still, resolution didn't come easily. Apologies were half-formed, interrupted by old wounds resurfacing. Mendeecees admitted he'd pulled away instead of communicating clearly. "I shut down," he said. "That's on me." Kirk acknowledged he'd prioritized appearances over principles. "I didn't mean to," he said, "but intentions don't erase impact." For the first time, they were speaking the same language. Outside that room, speculation continued. Fans dissected every rumor, every vague quote. Some hoped for reconciliation, others wanted the drama to burn brighter. "This is reality TV gold," one comment read. Another said, "This is sad, they're both hurting." The public watched, unaware of how fragile the situation really was. The meeting ended without a clear answer. No hug, no dramatic walkout. Just a quiet understanding that things had changed forever. "We don't have to be enemies," Kirk said as they stood to leave. Mendeecees paused, then replied, "But we can't pretend either." That was the truth neither of them could escape. In the days that followed, both men moved differently. Kirk became more guarded, more intentional with his words. Mendeecees softened slightly, allowing space for healing without forcing it. The family was left divided still, but the sharp edges dulled just enough to breathe. Yet even with this fragile calm, unresolved questions lingered. Trust once broken doesn't snap back into place. It rebuilds slowly, if at all. And while neither Kirk nor Mendeecees said it out loud, both knew the next move would define everything. Because sometimes, the real test of the bro code isn't whether it's broken, but whether it was ever truly understood in the first place. So now that you've heard everything, from the quiet tension to the explosive confrontations, from the rumors to the near resolution, the question still hangs heavy in the air. Was the bro code truly broken between Kirk Frost and Mendeecees, or were two strong personalities simply colliding under pressure, pride, and public scrutiny? Emotions ran high, loyalty was questioned, and the family was left divided, but the story doesn't come with an easy answer. And that's exactly why fans are still shocked. You've seen how silence can be louder than words, how choosing comfort over confrontation can look like betrayal, and how respect means different things to different people. On one side, Kirk believed keeping the peace was the right move, even if it meant staying quiet when things felt uncomfortable. On the other side, Mendeecees believed silence was the ultimate violation, a sign that loyalty had limits. Both felt wronged, both felt misunderstood, and both paid an emotional price that cameras can't fully capture. Now ask yourself this: if you were in Kirk's position, would you have spoken up and risked blowing everything up, or would you have stayed quiet to protect the bigger picture? And if you were in Mendeecees' shoes, would you have accepted silence as neutral, or would you have seen it as a clear sign of disrespect? These aren't just celebrity problems. These are real-life questions about friendship, boundaries, and what the bro code really means when things get messy. What makes this situation even more intense is that nothing feels fully resolved. There was no dramatic reconciliation, no public apology that tied everything up with a bow. Just two men walking away with a deeper understanding, but also deeper scars. And sometimes, that's how real life works. Not every story ends with closure. Some end with distance, changed dynamics, and lessons learned the hard way. Fans will keep watching every move, every post, every interview, looking for clues. Is that shade? Is that growth? Is that forgiveness? Or is it just two people choosing separate paths after realizing things can't go back to how they were? The speculation won't stop because unresolved tension always keeps people talking. And now it's your turn. You've heard the full breakdown, you've felt the emotion, the betrayal, the regret, and the pride. So what do you think really happened here? Was Kirk wrong for staying silent, or was Mendeecees wrong for expecting him to step in? Was this a true violation of the bro code, or just a painful misunderstanding blown up by outside voices and public pressure? Drop your thoughts in the comments, because this conversation doesn't end here. Your perspective matters, and everyone sees loyalty differently. If you felt this story, if you found yourself choosing sides or questioning your own ideas about friendship and respect, make sure you hit that like button. It helps keep these stories coming and lets us know you want more deep dives into reality TV drama that feels real, raw, and unfiltered. And don't forget to subscribe. You don't want to miss what happens next, because if history tells us anything, this story isn't truly over. There are still unanswered questions, still emotions simmering under the surface, and still moments that could change everything in an instant. Turn on notifications so you're always the first to know when new drama drops. Until next time, keep watching closely, keep questioning the narrative, and remember, in the world of fame, friendship, and reality TV, the bro code isn't just about what you say out loud, it's about what you do when it really counts.